I want to welcome everyone to tonight's meeting of the Rockland Board of Sewer Commissioners. This meeting is being taped for broad playback later on Zoom, or is it live? I'm not sure. I think maybe
playback.
Oh, for playback later on YouTube. The listings of those reasonably anticipated of the chair, which may be discussed at this meeting. All items listed may be in fact discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. With that, I will take a motion to open this evening's meeting.
Make the motion to open the meeting.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second that motion.
All in favor, Mr. DeRoss,
Yes.
Ms. Valley,
Yes.
and Mr. Hessian, yes, that is unanimous. We do not have any meeting minutes for the previous meetings to approve. Am I correct? Correct.
I think I sent you guys June at one point. Did everybody have a chance to read them? I can send them again. I'm really.
I would
behind.
send them again. I didn't see them.
All right.
All right, so we'll skip that over. And we'll go to abatements. Well, let's go to, abatements first. The abatements, Rob?
You want me to do my administrative update first?
I was gonna do the abatements and drain layers and turn it over to you.
Oh, all right. You got me all out of order now. All right, let's see. I have an abatement for 64 Fairview Street.
What was
The
that address
resident,
again, please?
what was that?
What was the address?
64 Fairview Street.
Okay.
The resident made the payment, but the collector's office used the wrong account number on the payment sheet. So it was applied to the wrong account. By the time they figured it out and we moved the payment over, they had accrued $2.96 of interest that they'd like abated.
I make a motion, we abate that sum to 64 Fairview Street of $2.96. Do I have a second?
Second. Yeah.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, Mr. DeRoss,
Yes.
Ms. Valley,
Yes.
and Mr. Hessian is a yes.
All right, that's just trying to keep up my minutes. All right, so the next thing that I have is I have 2 drain layer licenses. ATL Construction is a renewal. They supplied all of the paperwork and the check. They are at, they're in East Bridgewater, Massachusetts. That's ATL Construction. And then I have Guaranteed Builders and Developers, and that is Jim Fasani for 17 John Burke Drive. That project's not approved yet, but he's applying for the license so that when they are approved, they'll be able to move forward. He supplied all of the correct documentation, the payment, and Chuck Hessian reviewed all of the references.
And I got good references on Guaranteed. I'll make a motion that we accept the 2 drain layers license for approval as mentioned.
I second it.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, Mr. DeRoss,
Yes.
Ms. Valley,
Yes.
and Mr. Hessian is a yes.
All right, and that was, I'm sorry, that was, Guaranteed Builders. I want to make sure I get them both.
Deal.
All right, so I don't have much for the administrative update, but I do have to mention that back in December, we had the vote to raise the minimum on the bill the same evening that we raised the rate. So the understanding was to raise the minimum amount for consumption from $35 to $45. And then adding in the basic charge of $10 would raise the overall minimum on the bill to $55. However, the vote that was taken raised the consumption minimum to 40. So I'd like a vote to raise the minimum consumption to 45 as originally intended, retroactive to January 1st, 2023. That way, when we add in the basic, we'll be back at the 55, which was our understanding.
I believe that was the way it was worded, but I know we voted on the 50. I'll make that motion to change that to the 55. Read the motion again, Robin, though, for me.
Sure. Raise the minimum amount for consumption. Well, currently now it's $40, from $40 to $45. Adding in the basic charge of $10 would raise the minimum bill to $55.
Okay, I make that we approve the motion, so read. Do I have a second?
I got a second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, Mr. DeRoss,
Yes,
Ms. Valley,
yes.
Ms. Ashton's a yes.
And thank you very much. That's all I have for this evening.
I don't see Mr. Tassino on 17 John Burke Drive.
I don't see him either. Do you want me to text him?
Oh, I see Miss Hicks just jumped on.
Hello, I'm here representing Jim Tassino on 17 John Burke Drive.
Okay, and could we have your, what, are you with the builder or guaranteed builder?
Yep. So I work for Guaranteed Builders. I just had to fill in for Jim tonight. We are proposing to relocate a sewer line. We are building a detached garage. And the sewer line goes through where the garage is building. So we are relocating it in the middle of the garage and the accessory building. We were in conversation with Chuck in the sewer department. And it was where he recommended we propose the sewer line. We did send in the revised plot plan. Sorry, my son is in the background. We did send in the revised plot plan, stamped with the relocation proposal. So it is getting relocated to where it was recommended, in the middle of the dwelling and the accessory building.
This is the drawing that I reviewed with everyone yesterday, where the line was initially proposed to be under the garage. They're going to shift it in between the garage, the proposed garage and the building.
Yes, correct.
I would recommend approval of that process, but with a couple of conditions. That when the original sewer line is exposed, I want to view it with pictures. I want to have some from the sewer department see it. And I want to inspect that during and when the work is complete.
Of course.
Okay,
Can I add something to that, Chuck?
sure.
Can we ensure that they put two cleanouts, one sweeping towards the house and one sweeping towards the street?
I had spoken to Mr. Facino about that. He said he'd comply with the ordinance on that. But if you, Amanda, if you would just remind him of that.
Okay, 2 cleanouts.
And we will put that on the, as a condition as well.
Got it.
Okay, I would make a motion that we accept, we approve the work pending inspections at 17 John Burke Drive for relocation of the sewer line.
oh, I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second?
I will second.
Okay, all in favor, Mr. DeRoss,
Yes,
Ms. Valley,
Yes,
Ms. Hession's a yes. Like I said, I will probably get to that letter tomorrow or Monday.
Okay.
Now, I'll fax you a copy at your office if you could. I have Jim's phone number, but I don't have your, if you could send the sewer department your contact info, I'll fax it.
Yes.
I'll email the letter to you.
Yep, they do have it. I'll email her again tomorrow, and that would be great.
Okay, thank you very much, Amanda.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Project managers update. I received the update from Veolia. They were on the, they were monitoring the rate study. I'm gonna have them close that out, so we're not accruing double the cost with that, with them and Weston Sampson. I believe we got a good handle on that, Weston Sampson. So with that, I think Veolia only has 2 contracts, 2 tasks open on the contract. One is the I&I control plan, and Rick, you're tying up any loose ends with environmental partners, correct?
Yes, yep.
And the other one is the IPP program, and you're on that as well. The other one they had on, Sherry, this one's for you. They were overseeing asset management grant. I know you're gonna have conversations. Do you still want Veolia's help with that? To oversee that for you, or do you want to be involved with it? How do you want to work that? Or if you want to think about it, you can let me, you don't have to make a decision tonight.
Yeah, I'd like to think about it.
Okay, so that's where they are. As well, they have the gas piping, the digester gas piping. They're working with Weston Sampson, who's preparing the bid scope. I believe Hallam prepared the drawings. Rick, jump in if I'm wrong. Did they prepare the
That's
drawings?
correct. Yep, that's correct.
Hallam prepared the drawings. Veolia reviewed them. However, they could not write a bid scope, so we're gonna have Weston Sampson write the bid scope. And I think with the way the last project went with Hallam, I'm gonna have Veolia ride herd on them and take responsibility to make sure that gets done and that they meet their dates. And before we sign that contract, I am gonna have dates installed in that so that they can meet certain milestones.
I think I lost you somewhere. Veolia is gonna oversee,
Veolia is gonna work with Weston Sampson, but when the work starts, when it gets out to bid, I'm gonna continue having Veolia oversee that project. Weston Sampson will be out of it at that point. All they're gonna do is prepare the bid scope.
okay, so we're talking about the gas piping project.
Right.
All right,
The contract is in the, we'll have that contract drawn up, but I want to have milestones met. And if then I don't want to put up with them saying they'll show up and not again.
so who from Veolia is overseeing the gas piping project?
John Ayotte.
All right, John Ayotte, thank you.
Let's see, with Weston Sampson, okay, the sewer rate study. I think we've arrived at the correct numbers to use in that study. This is taken into consideration the costs associated with the facility upgrade that I'll go into a little bit later. We're going to spread that facility upgrade over what we'll call 4 stages. Throughout, and it's going to be done like in a period of 10 years right now, it looks like.
So, Mr. Chairman, I spoke with Weston Sampson today,
Yeah,
just to compare our capital planning documents to what they were working on with their rate study. They are going to prepare a new document that kind of merges both their numbers with the plan upgrade, as well as the items that were submitted to capital planning. There was a couple of questions. We had projected a couple of pump stations, injector stations to be repaired in 2025. And I had submitted at 100,000 each, and they had factored in 200,000 each. So the question is, do we just go with 150? And is this an annual expense to be projected out over the?
that's 100 for this fiscal year, correct?
We have 100 in for Spruce Street, but next fiscal year 2025, we were expecting 2 stations at 100 each.
Rick, is that what you feel is realistic, or one? After Spruce Street, do you have others?
Yeah, I honestly, I think after that, we could probably obviously use some monies for maintenance, but I think at that point, Chuck and the board, all the stations will be in, good to excellent shape.
So what are you saying, Sherry? With the 100 for one,
Yep.
and then in fiscal year 25, another 100.
That's the question. 25.
I mean,
I would say if he wants it, we put 100 in, and or how about this? 50,000 and 50,000 for 25 in fiscal year 26.
yeah, that would probably be better.
That would
Okay.
spread it out, Sherry, lessen the impact.
Well, okay. It's what do we reasonably expect for expenses?
I mean, right now, I'm not anticipating anything, but it's, kind of looking at the old crystal ball. You never know, a pump could go, You know, and the pumps, one pump is 30,000.
Okay, all right, so that I will submit that as 50,000 for fiscal year 25 and fiscal year 26.
Okay, can I ask a question? Because I'm falling behind here. Fiscal year 24, Spruce Street Injector Station, that was 100,000 or 125?
100.
100. And then we have another 100,000, but it's really 50,000 in fiscal 25, another 50 in fiscal 26, and those are for repairs at pump stations?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You also, Sherry?
Question regarding the digester boiler building roof.
We are addressing that in the upgrade, and that is in the final stage. That's going to be part of the facility upgrade.
So it will be included in the.
Yes, it
upgrade
is.
costs.
That's in the original 80.
What was that expense with the digester boiler?
Digester boiler roof.
Oh, the roof. And what year is that?
That's going to be spread out. That's going to be towards the end of the project. There's no year. That 80 million for the upgrade is being spread out over a period of 10 years.
Okay, so 80 million over 10 years is going to include the digester boiler roof and then other items?
Right, but it's going to be the 80 million is going to be broken up into 4 stages, which I'll get into later.
Oh, okay.
And Robin, for clarification, it really should be called a cover.
Now you know that'll really get me confused, Rick.
We need to call it a roof.
Boom.
And if I can ask another question,
Sure.
There was an item on one of these spreadsheets for pilot TP testing.
That's for the phosphorus. That's included in stage 1 that's part of the 100,000. That's part of the upgrade.
Okay, so that is not a separate item. Okay.
So you know that phosphorus is going to be part of the 2.5 million.
Right. And so that includes the testing that was previously estimated at 50,000.
What? Where do you get that number?
So it probably came from previous year's capital planning.
No,
And
that's
that was
not-
part of the exercise today, was to weed out what is no longer relevant.
that is not realistic. No.
Oh, so just to back up, the pilot TP testing will be included in the tertiary phosphorus system numbers.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
That should even
And
make it look better.
Oh, yeah, it definitely helps. And then there was just some general confusion on our budget line item of 200,000, but we're leaving that in there as is.
Okay.
And that's everything.
Okay, so Rustin Sampson on the rate study, and like I said, I think we've arrived at the numbers to use. And that's taken into consideration the 80 million for the upgrade, spread out over to 4 stages. Like I said, I'll go into that later. But the best part of this rate study, it's going to give the residents, there's no best part. I mean, let's face it, there's going to be increases, but they'll know what those increases will be going out 10 to 15 years. The good news is, if there's any good news out, we are out of the red. And now we're on the way to a goal for 12.5% to 15% in unreserved funds and a balanced budget. Which
I have a question.
Yep.
That rate study, how many years does that go out? Do they keep revisiting it?
Okay, let me finish on that, okay?
Okay,
So that's going to be going, the rate study is going to go out. I've talked to Frank. That rate study will be revisited for the first time in 3 years after, providing no catastrophic failure of equipment. And after that, 5 years, it'll be reviewed, and any time after we deem necessary. With that in mind, I have a quote I'll go over, I have just received it today. I want to review for, it'd be in addition to the rate study as an follow-up or an addendum. So I'll send through that. The one thing I do want to mention, and it was, I took a lot of pride in that. It came from Weston Sampson and Wright Pierce, both independently, that they cannot believe how it's night and day now as far as the budget, at least in the plan going out long term. They were really impressed that they seem, you know, we've got a solid handle on where we're going, which, you know, which is good to hear. That was really good. And the good other thing too on this rate study, they're all based on actual numbers, and there's no guesswork involved. And again, it should be pretty well cut and dry, providing there's no catastrophic equipment failures. The I&I control plan is complete, and we are waiting comments from Mass DEP and the EPA. Rick, is that what you received today?
What was that again, Chuck?
Yeah, that was on what you received today from Mass DEP. That wasn't on the I&I control plan. That was on the general permit.
That's correct. That was a general permit.
All right, next for Weston Sampson, here's a good one. The sewer system rehabilitation for the I&I, which was planned, and it's going to be closely monitored by the EPA. We have received 2 bids for the request for qualification. The board has to review those qualifications. You each received a score sheet, I believe, so review them, check it off that they met those criteria, and any thoughts you have. I want to discuss it and make a selection at our next working session. 2 bidders, you know, want to bid on the job, and it's all going to be who is more qualified to do that, excuse me. And it's going to be closely monitored by the EPA. And it's my opinion that effort of the rehab work, along with the phosphorus system commitment, will be the determining factor on how they arrive at a number that they're going to fine us. They've already told us back in June of last year that we will be fined. They've been asking for some documentation. And I think they want to make sure that we're doing what we're saying we're doing this time before they arrive at a number. I don't think it's going to be what you see in the papers as far as other cities and towns are getting, but they are going to fine us. That I&I work was awarded to Green Mountain Piping out of Bethel, Vermont, for $260,260. The contract will be executed by the commission within the next 2 weeks. It's being reviewed by legal counsel now, and it's going to be published. They're going to be issuing a notice to proceed per chapter 30. I'll be scheduling a kickoff meeting, which will be an open public meeting. And that's going to be a Zoom meeting because of the distance between Green Mountain up in Vermont and us down here. I thought it would just be a lot easier for us to do it in that format. Public will be welcome to observe that.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
That Green Mountain Piping, they were awarded the bid for the gas piping in the digester boiler building?
No, they were awarded for the sewer system I&I work.
Oh, thank you.
And like I said, we'll have a kickoff meeting, and at that kickoff meeting, we'll come up with a time frame of when we'll begin the work, which I think now looks like probably around the first week of April. That I&I work, we can get the, I hate the phrase low-hanging fruit, but then we'll go after that. And that's simply sealing manholes and that, and when the water level drops, we'll go after the others.
And who's overseeing them, did you say? I thought you said someone earlier.
No, that was the earlier on another one. That's a gas piping. Now we're on the sewer system rehab work, the I&I.
Right. Yeah, who's going to oversee them on that?
There, I was just getting to that.
Oh, all right. I thought I missed something.
No, there's a part of the sewer system rehab work was a contract for $49,000 to Weston Sampson, who prepared the bid. And their responsibility is to follow the contractors, monitor the work, and assure they're proceeding to schedule and to specs on time. I'm also want them documenting the INI because we can use that for that in-kind service for the asset management grant. The other thing too is hopefully by that time we'll have the other contract going that I'll get into a little bit later for the metering installation. The actual real reason I wanted Weston Sampson to follow this was because when they say they remove it, I don't want to say, oh, we removed this and according to ACOM, this is how much INI we took out. I want to know how much actual INI we're taking out, real numbers, so there'll be flow meters involved in it. And that amount we take out will determine how much more we can open for new flows. Now pending, we have received the 2 submittals for the request for the piping. No, we have a request for I'm getting confused here. Request for qualification is going to be for the 1-year monitoring. That will include the installation of 15 flow meters around town and identify other heavy hitters of potential INI. For instance, I'm going to recommend that the install in the areas of high flow, such as Plain Street, Westwater, and John Burke Drive going into Reed's Pond. I want to see what's cooking up there, and they'll probably identify some other areas.
What were those, Plain Street?
That's what I'm just going to suggest that they look at.
Oh, all right.
Plain Street, Westwater, and John Burke Drive that flows, that way, because seems there's a lot of high water up there, especially coming down Plain Street. Now that job, once it'll be approved, we think that contract will be in the vicinity of $150,000, which is going to be covered by an ARPA grant. And now back to the digester piping with Weston Sampson. They are currently reviewing the design specs and will prepare a bid package by mid-March. Now with that, we're going to be under a 6-month gun to get it done because technically we're in non-compliance with that, with the digester boiler. Rick, do you want to mention something on that? Why it's non-compliant?
What was regarding what now, Chuck?
Why we're having 6 months to complete the gas piping?
I forgot why. Let's try to think. What was that? What we were doing with that one? Yeah, so that's
For the burner. For the boiler.
yeah, okay. So the burner. So obviously the burner, the boiler is up and running. Just a quick synopsis on that. It's up and running. It's working great. And now, as you know, we have to replace the piping. The state has given the town 6 months, a deadline to get the complete project, I think completed. And I believe that was what, maybe 2 weeks ago, Chuck? I know it was on a Friday.
Yep, 2 weeks ago Friday.
2 weeks last Friday. So, so we don't have a lot of time, to finish the whole project of replacing all the methane pipe. And like I said, this is coming down from the state.
And that's why I wanted, I want Paoli to ride herd on them real tight, even if it means, a day-to-day visit.
Well, like I said, we just got to wait till it goes out to bid and see who the contractor is and bring them up to speed.
Do we already have a time frame for sending out the bid for that?
He says we hopefully will have that in 2 weeks. Okay, that's what I have for project updates. Facility information, facility upgrade. What did I do with that? That's the INI kickoff meeting. Well, one thing I want to add on the rate study, I didn't go into. We should have something roughly on future meetings. Let me jump into that. Maybe that'll help me out. The Board of Selectmen tentatively scheduled for the March 7th. For the to go after March 7th, we were going in and ask for a $1 million ARPA funds and 1.5 million on a bond to cover the $2.5 million design package for, now that $2.5 million is for the entire design of the entire facility, the soil testing, the soil evaluation, the hydraulics, that whole enchilada on that. That's the 7th. There was talk about hopefully putting that off to the 21st. I'll find out by tomorrow if that's going to be the case. The rate study draft, the way I'd like to do this is I'm hoping to have it by March 9th. And on March 9th, I'll have an open public meeting at night so Weston Sampson can explain the rate study to the board in open meeting. It's the only way we can meet to discuss it. We'll have a chance to review that beforehand. I'll have them make their presentation, then we can ask our questions. And once we're done with that, I'm going to turn it over to the public for questions on it. Once everyone's had a chance to go at it at that meeting, I'm going to forward a copy to the town accountant and the town board of selectmen to submit for their input. And once we have all that finalized, along with the questions from the residents, I'll have Weston Sampson back in for a formal presentation on the rate study. Okay, where was I? On the facility. Okay, the core team met again yesterday. That's the 3rd time we've met now. That core team's consisting of Matt Johnson, Rick from Veolia, Kevin Olson, and Kevin Pierce of Wright Pierce, and myself, again, I said with Rick. And all we're doing is coming up with the overview and try to break this project into sections. And I think what we've decided on, and I think the best way for the town is, and for the sewer department, is we'll break, and we had a meeting previously with Doug and the town accountant, is to break this up into 4 stages spread out over probably 10 years. This, with the narrative of the project, which will be presented to the Board of Selectmen, is done. We're just tweaking it, and we have to put together some slides for a dog and pony show. And the project narrative is going to consist of what's involved, how it's going to be done, and with a pretty firm timeline on how it should be done in 4 stages. The first choice is a no debate. I mean, there's a no choice in that at all. That first part about it is going to be $2.5 million for the design bid package. And that design bid package will be for the entire facility, but we're going to focus on the phosphorus system and the main electric into the panel to keep, because that's in tough shape. Now that package should be in the vicinity right now. It's $12 million.
When you say phosphorus, do you mean the tertiary system?
Yep. Phosphorus tertiary system. So the time frame for that is we have to get that designed this fiscal year, being fiscal year 24. We have to break ground by next June, by next July of 2024, which is fiscal year 25. So this year we're going in asking for 2.5 million. Next year, we're going in what right now is 12, we're going to need $12 million at next year's town meeting. And everyone knows the way costs are going. They're not going down. And that right now is looking at, originally it was 8 to 10. We're looking at 8 to 12 right now, 10 to 12. That could be 15. We're not sure right now, but that's the way it's looking. So but I want people to know we're going to be planning on that. Now that system has to be up and running by April 30th of 2025, and that's per the EPA order. So I'm sure that if we get underway, if we run into roadblocks, at that point we could say, okay, to the EPA, we need another extension. But I think they're gonna want to see us, I know they're gonna want to see us breaking ground there. Really weren't too keen on two conversations we had with them about extensions. They weren't too keen on it. So the first phase will be the phosphorus and the electrical. Stage 2. What the hell did I have for that? Okay, the stage 1, what again, I want to go back into that. That's going to consist of the entire facility survey, soil stability, the wetlands delineation, the groundwater and soil hydraulic capacity. And again, this will cover the entire project for the facility only. It'll also include the complete design work, that 2.5 million for the complete design, and it's a not to exceed. Like I said, I'll be going to the Board of Selectmen to request 1 million in opera funds, and at a town meeting to ask the residents to approve a $1.5 million bond for the balance. I'm repeating my notes, which I just repeated. The actual cost of today's dollar for the construction is 12 million. That'll definitely change by 2025. And then there's the issue of component availability. And everyone's very busy trying to get people to work right now. So will take space. The next stage of the stage 2 will be the facility hydraulics and the headworks. This is going to be a bigger project. It involves replacing the influent building, the equipment for both the screening, the grit removal. It also includes construction of 2 below grade channels, bar screens. There's also going to be an attempt to increase the holding capacity from 6 to 7 million gallons. I mean, it's going to be raising the walls for periods of high flow like we just went through. Again, there is no drop dead date for this stage 3. We have a proposed start date of, I believe that's fiscal year 26-27. I'll have that finalized for the Board of Selectmen. And stage 4 will be, stage 3 will be the miscellaneous equipment and system improvements. Remember, the bulk of that facility is underground. So there's a lot of work on that. That itself will be up around the 20 million. And then there's the solids and sludge handling. Again, I'll have the cost better defined in the periods by the 7th. Now, the one thing I want to point out to everybody, and I want to keep hopping on this, and I'm going to keep saying it, that the system was originally said it was going to cost 50 million, 49 point something million dollars in 2021. It's already at, and we've checked it, double checked the numbers, and that's going to be close to 75 million right now. And that's without contingencies. And the longer we push it out, the higher the costs. And I really want to stress this. I want to make sure everyone pays attention to this. This is not going to give us added capacity for processing. This is only going to allow us to process what we're currently doing. And besides that, the EPA will never allow us to exceed 2.5 million gallons. Now, we can chase the INI and remove it in one area, but as it's like anything else, as you get it at one end, the older ends are going to start catching up. So it's going to be a repeat process. So we have to keep up with that in perpetuity. So roughly in closing for the upgrade, F24, we need 2.5 million. FY24, we're likely going to need another 15. We're going to need another 15 for construction. Those are known numbers. EPA.
Question.
Sure.
So, question. So we're expecting March 7th. We'll go to the board and explain the first phase for the tertiary system.
We're going to be able to explain all 4.
All
And
four.
we'll have pretty narrow the costs that the rate study has for the rate study are accurate. It's just how we're going to break it out to stages. We'll be tweaking that to finesse it.
Yeah. My question was getting the information to the residents about the whole upgrade. I think right now.
What I'm going to do is, like I said, once I do that for the 7th, I want to let them know the rate study. I think that's priority. There will be an open meeting with the core team and the engineers doing a presentation on what's involved in each stage and what's going to be involved when. One thing I do want to go on record is there is no way this is meant to interfere with any other project out there. This is a matter of, if you want to say bad timing or however you want to say it, time. It's a matter of timing. We've been working on this since 2020 and it was going in stages. This is not putting up a building. This is designing a very highly technical system. So.
And that is all the information that I want to get out. there to
Everyone,
you.
believe me, everyone is going to get that. It's going to be a very open public meeting.
Perfect.
But I want to get into something on that right now. Because EPA, let me touch base on the EPA one more for like one meetings. EPA has been requesting from council data, forms like such as the contracts for the I&I work, and what we're planning for the tertiary system. So they're watching us. So what I'm saying is they're looking at everything that's in front of us right now and what the contracts are saying, and they're making sure we're following those contracts and the timelines committed. They're not going to allow us to slip, and I don't think we will. It's the longer term projects that has me nervous. Again, they will be fining us, but how much I think is going to be, they're watching us. The next report we have for the EPA is due in November.
May.
May, you're right. And we're submitting data to Veolia as we go along. So they're pretty well up to speed on that. That'll be a short, sweet proposal. Now on meetings, as of the end of March, Zoom meetings go away. That means they're going to have to, school commission meetings are going to have to be in person, and we can either go back to the 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock, 5:30, or keep them at 7 to 8:30. I don't want to discuss it tonight. I want everyone to be aware of what's going on with that. Either way, those meetings are going to be taped because we're going to be talking about an awful lot of money. And I don't want people to say, well, we didn't know it. You're having your meetings when I can't meet. So I'm giving everyone out there, and I'll even put it out a little blurb on Facebook or on the town website about the times for our meetings. If you don't notify us that you prefer days or nights, we're going to make that decision. And I don't want to even get into it, what the other board members now, what they prefer. So right now.
Say something, Chuck,
Yeah.
can I say something? So you said that the meetings will continue to be taped. I know that was something that we spoke about earlier, and I mentioned it to Sherry earlier today, but did anybody confirm with Chris Bernica that we could still use their camera and that they would actually upload those for us?
No, I didn't.
I can certainly do that. I don't see any issue with it. They're not concerned with the camera at the sewer department.
Okay,
They're
well, what I want to do, no matter how we do it, we're going to be talking money, and I want these meetings taped. I don't want anyone saying, oh, you didn't put that in the minutes, or I didn't hear that. I want backup.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great idea, and I know Sherry wanted that too. The way you said it, I thought we had already confirmed it with Chris.
Oh, no. Hopefully we can. If not, well, I'll tell you, we'll record it on tape recorder. But anyway, I need to know, and I want people to voice their opinion, what they prefer for meeting times. Because I don't want to say, oh, we didn't get a chance to voice our opinion. You have it. End of the month, end of March, we're going to have to make a call on when we want our meetings. So you can either notify me, Sherry, or Dan by email, the sewer department by email. If it comes by email, we're going to save them and look at them. You can call me, but I'm going to take your name and number to make sure I read it into the record. But right now, I want to know what people feel like. They want to know what time for a meeting.
Are you asking the residents of
Yeah,
Rockland?
I want the residents to, because I don't want to hear that no one had a chance to speak on it or guess on it. I'm asking for help in making the choice. I'll leave it up to the majority. That's all I have. Sewer facility upgrade, done it. EPA update, we've done it. Sherry, I guess you're up. It's articles for town meetings.
So I attended the meeting with the Capital Planning Board. We discussed capital request forms that were submitted. There are only 4, I believe, that will actually be going to town warrant this May. And the actual wording on those articles is pending. Town council is working on that right now. I will be meeting with Attorney Galvin on Monday to go over our sewer commission request about reclassifying ordinance to bylaws. So we'll have that. I'll have more information on that. What I propose is that the ordinance become rules and regulations, and then a shall bylaw that authorizes those rules and regulations.
What?
So currently, what Mr. Galvin is saying is that the ordinance needs to become a bylaw. The commissioners would like to have rules and regulations so that we can institute changes in a timely fashion as conditions change.
How do you
Otherwise,
get a bylaw?
pardon me?
Did he say how to get a bylaw? Like,
That would be an article at town meeting.
oh, it will be. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, he will write that. The issue is best splitting the information currently contained in the ordinance so that the commissioners can make the rules and regulations function as they should. If you dump
Oh.
everything if you put it all into the bylaw, then you haven't really changed the situation, which is waiting until May to make any necessary changes.
So does that mean we end up with 2 documents, the sewer ordinance and then the rules and regulations?
What I would like to see is the sewer ordinance become the rules and regulations.
Oh, okay.
And then
Thank
there'll
you.
just be a separate shorter bylaw that says, yes, there are rules and regulations.
It gives us the flexibility to edit it as we want without going to town meeting.
Thank you for that.
Once those capital requests are finalized and it still all needs to go before the finance committee, then we can figure that out. Working session update is pretty much just working on all the things that Chuck just spoke about. And really having conversations so that the commissioners understand what's going on. Looping in you, Robin, looping in Rick, making sure that all the team is on the same page. What I like best, I will say, about the working sessions is Robin, your updates, because for me, it gives me a real feel on what's going on around there and all the different items that come up. So kudos to you for keeping that running.
Well, thank you, Sherry.
We also had a discussion on the recent overflow situation, the SSO. And we did, at the working session, we talked about how best to explain that to residents, because the regulations just specify, you need to put out this notice. But it didn't really explain what has happened. So we were able to put together a nice document, which Chuck kindly wrote up, and we posted that. And I wanted to give kudos to Rick and Megan for handling that whole situation and filing those things. As you know, we're all chipping in with tasks that a superintendent would maybe take over. For future sessions, I hope to finalize the website design so that all these project updates are organized and the information is more accessible as that progresses. I think we'll definitely be looking at the moratorium status at some point once this I&I work is progressed. And hopefully we'll be talking about the superintendent and assessment of what needs we actually need for that position. The accounting update, I'm gonna pass on right now.
Can I just bump in on the working session? What I would like to do is be a little more focused on them. Every item you mentioned is important. But what I would like to do is, it was not mentioned, and make that, is I'd like to work on one matter and bring it to closure, and I think that is the fees. I would like to get a fee structure nailed down tight, because the second we release that moratorium, we're going to be getting applicants. And I want the fee structure ready for the new applicants. So if we get the fee structure done, then we can move on to the moratorium while they're releasing, fixing the I&I. That way there we could, so I guess what I'm saying is, I'd like to make the fees our next order of business.
Okay. Works for me.
But everyone you mentioned, the fee, the website, the moratorium, and the super should all be on there.
Right.
I'm sorry, Sherry, you're on.
No, that pretty much finished it. The accounting update, I'm just gonna pass on that for now, because most of my time has been spent working on these articles and getting that nailed down.
Sherry, you want to just make an overall comment on the budget and where we are? Just balanced again.
So for FY24 next year, we do have a balanced budget. And actually expect to have some retained earnings, which is the funds that go towards these projects that we've been discussing. So I think I see a great improvement in the finances at the sewer department. Very encouraged.
Your hard work, kid. Kudos to you.
Well, it's all of us. We're a team.
All right, and with that, with the superintendent search, again, I checked, there have been no applicants. I mean, I think Rick, you, myself, Kevin Olson, and Weston Sampson discussed that in depth yesterday.
Correct.
We are not alone in this boat. There is no one getting into this field. Anybody that's can get their hand on experienced people are paying them ridiculous amounts of money. And the other downside that they brought up, which is, I guess, something we never really thought of, but in one sense, that you bring someone in and train them, and then they're going to leave for higher paying jobs. That's what they're finding out now. I mean, they were getting graduate engineering students coming in at, what was the one yesterday, $140 an hour?
Yeah, it was something.
As an intern.
Yeah.
I mean, they can't even get people to train, and the problem is, once you train them, is retaining them, paying them to retain them. So, but we're not alone in that boat. No, and one other thing I wanted to point out with the superintendent, for 45 years, and I'm not saying that it's right or wrong, I'm just pointing out that for the first 45 years of operation, Rockland Sewer Department did not have a superintendent. The position was created for an individual who didn't fare too well in the position and ended up getting charged, and then it went to another individual, and so on and so on. But for 45 years, there was not a superintendent here, and they obviously got by. So until we find the right person, I want to keep plugging. I am not saying we're not going to get one. I want to get the right person, because we don't want to go back 10 steps to make one step forward. Anyone else on superintendent? Future presentations. Like I said, the next one will be the Board of Selectmen on tentatively the 7th. I've asked to maybe get to the 21st instead, but we'll wait and see. Hopefully Weston Sampson will be ready for a draft rate study presentation to give us an overview of where they are, how they arrived at it, and what we're looking like over the next 30 years, Sherry, or 15, yeah, 30 years. It's went out 30 years. The goal we gave them was would like a 15% return on the unreserved funds, but I'd be happy with 12, but I think we're going to hit 12 anyway. And again, when we have the date for the, so that rate study meeting, I'm tentatively going to shoot for March 9th, but that's all dependent on Weston Sampson. That will be an open public meeting, and people will get plenty of notice on that on the town website. I'll put it on Facebook so they know that it's going to be about the rate, the user rates, and to ask all the questions they want. It'll be a dedicated meeting to that. And again, the next one will be the I kickoff meeting, which will probably be the middle of March sometime. No date for that. So with that, I'll turn it over to Rick for Veolia and all the good news for December's flow. Or is that why you brought Megan in, so she could take the instead of you, Rick?
No, that's no.
I'm here for moral support.
There you go. Thank you, Megan. I know you posted something, Chuck. And before I discuss this December sanitary system overflow, as they say, SSO, during the meetings, when we keep hearing and I just want the general public to really think what I want to say it in layman's terms. First part of it is infiltration. And all that is, it's the groundwater that seeps into the sewer pipes through holes, cracks, and faulty connections. I mean, these sewer pipes have been down there 50, 60 years. So they are going to have holes, cracks, and faulty connections. So again, the board with the I study, that's where Chuck was talking about earlier about going in there and fixing some of the manholes to reduce this infiltration. The other aspect of the I is the inflow. And I think this is really what hurts our facility the most. That's when the rain comes down, the stormwater, it comes down so fast and it gets into the sewers. And that could be any means by residents that have roof drain downspouts connected to the sewer, possibly some holes in the manholes that are in the streets, and some pumps. I mean, some pumps are definitely an issue throughout the town. We know Chuck was referring earlier about West Water Street and John Burke down that way. And we know they exist. As the operator, all I'm asking is, if you could put those to your storm drains outside your house and not connect them to the sewer system, because that's, with all that rain that we received, that's really what caused our SSO. And I'll bring you now up to speed with that. So what happened was we ended up calling EPA, DP. I believe every resident got the 911 reverse call. That was because the facility was inundated with so much flow. We hit 6.8 million gallons. Now, if you think about that, the plant is only designed for 2.5. I mean, we're almost 3 times what we can, treat at the facility. So it was coming in so fast, we had no choice. We had to hook up a couple of what we call Godwin pumps or auxiliary pumps. And we're fortunate we have some space and empty tanks. And we literally just pumped the excess flow to try to alleviate from backing up residents' homes. I mean, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. So what happens with this I? Well, it causes dilution in the sanitary sewers. And this dilution of sewage, it decreases the, it's more watered down, but also what it does is it decreases the efficiency of the wastewater plant. And it causes the facility to have possible violations. In this case, our violation was the flow. And again, we've talked about before, the design capacity. That the Rockland plant, again, 2.5, we can take a peak of 6.0, but if you look in the original O&M manual, that was, I believe, 1960, it said that we could take that 6 for a max period of 3 hours. Well, this SSO went on for 24 hours. So as you can tell, there was nothing we could do. There was absolutely nothing to do. But the good part is, because it was so blended and the water, it was very weak in the strength of the wastewater. So again, what happens is we just don't have the detention time. So this water is ripping through the facility. But at the same point, it's, again, like I said before, it's very diluted. And what we do is we remove any rags and debris through our offline tanks, and then we basically hit it with some hypochlorite, another chemical, and then we hit it with a sodium bisulfite. Then it's blended in with our final effluent. So even though it sounds like 1 million gallons was a lot, it really was a very weak blended wastewater that, did not get fully treated. And like I said, I just want to, try to make that clear. I know there was a lot of panic within the town about this SSO. We had been fortunate. We hadn't had one, I believe, since December of 2019. Can I say right now we won't get another one? No, absolutely not. I mean, we will get another one. It's unfortunate, but that's why the town has to spend millions and millions of dollars, not only at the, in the streets, but also at the wastewater plant. So again, I just want to let everybody know what actually happened on that. I believe that was January 26th.
Rick hit on a key point too, and that the sump pumps. And I know that's in the ordinance and people think, well, it's no big deal. It's just my house. Well, you add up all the houses in Rockland. Now, one thing I want to point out, sump pumps are illegal if they're connected to the sewer. Now, should they be doing I&I work in your area and they find an illegal sump pump, you will have to pay to have that disconnected and removed. So I just want to put the residents out there now to start thinking, if you have sump pumps connected to the sewer, it's going to catch up to you.
And as an operator, I understand it's very convenient to do that. But like Chuck said, it's illegal and it puts undue stress at the wastewater plant. And the potential is, if you're doing it, your neighbor's doing it, there is a possibility, that, if the system fails, you will get backed up. And that's the last thing we want at the wastewater plant. We want to treat as much as we possibly can and avoid any backup in any residents' homes. So I'm asking as far as a little help when it rains. Just please think what you're putting down that sewer pipe, and if you are connected, to please try to disconnect them. Sump pumps. It'll help everyone in the long run.
And there is no such thing as flushable wipes.
I was just gonna say, can I add to that?
Sure, please do.
So about the wipes, a lot of people think because it says flushable, it's okay. It's not okay to flush wipes down, just like you can't flush toys down. You can't flush this down, you can't flush that down. So just because it says flushable, it doesn't mean that it's okay to flush down. So that's all I wanted to add.
Also advertising.
Yeah.
No, because what happens is, like Megan says, those wipes eventually get to the wastewater plant. And what happens, and it did happen in this last SSO, they're coming through the facility so fast and they end up going into our pumps and they get clogged up. All of a sudden, we'll get an alarm on a panel, pump 1 failure. So the guy's got to run down in there, try to get that pump 2 failure. So it creates a lot of work at the facility when, residents are flushing these down the drains, because no matter what, you flush it down drain, it's got to go somewhere. And unfortunately, it does come to us at the wastewater plant. All right. I think I beat that one already. MOR. Like Chuck said earlier, January MOR, our flow was 4.3 million gallons per day. So if you take that number, we average 4.3 every single day for 31 days during the month of January. With that being said, we also had over 7 inches of rain. The prior month, we had 5 inches of rain. So you can see, all that wet weather we've had eventually gets to the wastewater plant and creates havoc and violations that have to be reported to the Mass DEP and EPA. And like we've all said before, they're watching the wastewater plant. They're watching these violations that we have to legally report.
But however, February looks real good, huh, Rick?
Yeah, Well, I mean, we're still gonna violate, but it's come down drastically. Again, because of that I, like I referred to earlier, has come down. But again, the rain, we haven't had as much rain in the month of February. Next, a lot of these, Chuck, I'm looking at my agenda, you pretty much beat with a dead horse, beat like a dead horse here. NIPD's faucets, we've already gone over that.
Yep.
We're doing the tertiary system. Again, like Chuck said, it's has to be up and running by April of 2025. I don't have any, abnormal repair and maintenance projects going on right now. We have the general ones that pumps go and motors go, and we, fortunately, we do have inventory where we replace when things do break. The generator, Chuck, I know that Matt Johnson of Veolia, he's been working on that. That bid, we kind of, again, beat that one to the curb, trying to decide, well, what do we want? Do we want portable? Do we want fixed? And we ultimately agreed as a team of these meetings that we have to go with it, what they call in-kind replacement. So what that means is we're going to be putting a commercial, we're going to be bidding out a commercial generator. And we thought about it, well, if we put a very bland scope of work out there, we'll end up with a home version of a generator, and we can't take the chance. We need something that's going to protect these almost 7,000 sewer users and almost 18,000 population of the residents. And I don't feel comfortable in Veolia and Wright Pierce. We just don't feel comfortable putting a cheap, a cheap generator. So that I know right now that bid should be almost ready to be put out to bid, Chuck.
I think it is.
Boiler status, again, I've already said this, all right, boiler's running great. And again, working with Hallam and Weston Sampson, that should be going out to bid to replace the gas piping for the methane. Staffing, again, Chuck, we had a meeting about this yesterday. Engineers, Veolia operators, just in general, we're all having difficult time finding people, and the people that want, they want crazy money, without licenses, and they're coming right out of school. In Rockland, I've still, again, I've pleaded before, if there's anyone looking for a job, please go onto the Veolia website. We have a posting right now for an operator, and Megan and I have been reviewing the applicants that are on there. And I think thus far, we received 3, and all 3 of them, I'll be honest with you, they're way overqualified. I need a person that wants to come in, work, and, get the license, work his way up, and there's always room for advancement in wastewater.
Rick, let me ask you a question. Are you at the point that you could actually, do you feel you could use a qualified body?
Well, I mean, so as we've done in the past, we brought in OITs, so that seems to, and I had a meeting this morning with Veolia with, I believe, it was like 22 of us, 22 managers in a meeting, and it's the same topic comes up, and everyone is, right now, one of the problems we are having, like we referred to yesterday's meeting, Chuck, it's like, we're hiring more and more what we call OITs. We can't find qualified operators, so we're bringing them up. And one gentleman made a comment, says, if you do bring them in that way with no experience, at least they're not coming into your facility with bad habits. And it kind of made it, we kind of laughed about it, but it is kind of right. It is kind of right. I mean, it's like you get some operators, but yeah, industry wide right now, in the wastewater, and not just wastewater, but wastewater and water field, it's becoming a problem. The average managers are like late 50s. The average operator is probably about 45. So we're trying to bring youth into this, into the field, and we're just having difficulty. I know Veolia, they're trying everything. They've been working with multiple companies, colleges, universities, trying to even sponsorships, sponsoring college courses, things like that, to try to keep this field, afloat. Because right now, that in the next 10 years, I believe it was on the news. The next 10 years, we're going to lose 40% of the operators that are current. That's a lot of bodies. And how are we going to replace them? I don't really know yet. I really don't know. But it's a problem in the water and wastewater field because no one really wants to jump into this field. And like I said, it's a major problem. Markouts. Chuck and I actually had a good conversation with DigSafe. Like I said, I believe it was last meeting. Last meeting, I received over 70 for the month. We were averaging 10 to 15 per day from National Grid, the gas company. So we reached out to them, and what's been happening, they've been sending them to us for meter replacements. Well, probably residents, if you notice, the gas company, they're on every street. They're replacing the gas meters. I think they do these approximately every 7 years. So what they've been doing is they've been sending dig safes to the water and to wastewater. We run into those guys too out on the streets. And again, we have facilities to run, and these things are just, they're inundated with us. We just can't keep up with them. So after talking to them, we found out that they even kind of recommended with Chuck had a meeting with them, and that the gas meter replacements, when I see a dig safe now, I'm not sending the guys out to do them, because all they're doing is replacing the meters. It really has nothing to do with the marking of the sewer, or in fact, the marking of the water. So anything else, if it's excavation, yes, we will go out there. But if it's a non-excavation dig safe, we're not going to be responding to those.
And Rick is covered with that because they went over the general law with me as well, and that they thrust the word excavator and excavate. Unless they break ground, they does not have to be marked out.
Right. It's just, I think the new 811 number, it's gotten everyone very antsy, and they're calling them in for everything, but with that being said, also last month we had some GIS training that Environmental Partners did with the whole staff, with the entire staff. And what that was, we now have on two iPads that the sewer department purchased. And so instead of the guys coming back to the plant, going through the drawings, making copies on the copy machine, running back out, then hurry up, going out to the residents' houses or wherever we're marking them out, we now have them on the iPads. So this should definitely decrease the amount of time spent completing these tasks. So I thank the board for purchasing the iPads and for allowing us the training with the Environmental Partners. And that's all I have. If anyone has any questions.
No, Rick, thank you very much. New business for the March meeting. Before we go to that, board members, we still on for Tuesday the 28th at 1 o'clock for our working session?
I'm good.
Daniel?
I'm good.
Okay, so I'll put something out tomorrow for the 28th. Any other ideas that you want for the next meeting in March? But then we'll have the rate study and the we'll be done with the Board of Selectmen. So for the monthly operations meetings, if you have any ideas you'd like to bring up or discuss, bring it up at the working meeting. We'll do that. Public, if you have any comments or suggestions that you'd like us to talk about, please bring them up. What public mentioned is if I see just one resident, nameless, unknown, would you, nameless resident, like to make any comments about tonight or anything we've spoken about? I guess that's the unknown resident. So unknown resident has nothing. And with that, I'll take a motion to end the meeting.
I make the motion to end the meeting.
Do I have a second?
I will second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, Mr. DeRoss,
Yes.
Ms. Valley,
Yes.
Mr. Hessian's a yes. I want to thank everyone very much.